Am I sane for walking out on us? Oh, or am I losing touch? Too many games, now all our chips are lost. Oh, luck was not enough. I opened my eyes. Tonight I feel like waking to life. Tonight I feel like waking up. Tonight I feel like
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to anyone that might be up at 5 o'clock in the morning in Australia, or maybe 6 or 7. And welcome to Justice Radio Network for another One Point of View. And this evening, we have got somebody from the United Kingdom to talk to us. So bad luck, anybody out there that doesn't want to listen to three Brits here, because of course, as always, I have with me my wonderful, beautiful solstice star, Sheila Folger. Hello, Sheila.
Good evening, Jerry. How are you?
I am very well, and I forgot to mention that this is Jerry Jones. So, yes, I'm very well. We've got a bit of thunder going on out here, so hopefully I won't get chopped off, but we will keep hanging in there as long as we can. So, and how are you?
Don't get chopped off, for heaven's sake.
I hope not. Yeah, we suddenly got actually heat here. It was boiling today. It was 90, which is what, 35, 33, I don't know. It was hot today, which we're not used to. It's been chilly for a while. But you've got used to hot recently.
Yes, it has. It's been creeping up to the 90s for a little while now. We've had some rain, a few bits of thunder, but it's been okay.
Yeah, cool. Well,
different to weather in Wales.
Yes, and how is it in Wales? So here we have emissary, decahedron5d is your title. Welcome.
That is true. Thank you very much. I'm overjoyed to be here. It's lovely, and I feel a fantastic energy for tonight. It's
yes.
really good.
Me too. It's really, really wonderful to have
and
you.
I think we've contacted in various ways on Facebook and chat rooms and things. I'm not sure. We've actually ever spoken.
No, I don't think we ever have. No.
Okay.
So this is our first time, absolutely, and it's really lovely because I think the three of us have connected energetically, not really any other way. I've just always felt a good energy from you, and I sent you a message when I was looking for a little bit of help with who to connect with in the UK, with you being there. And it really just feels like a really good connection without having to actually convey words or, anything else. It just seems right, yeah. I think, Sheila, don't you kind of connect that way? Yeah.
Yes, I think Jack and I have had a few conversations going back a while. The trouble is now there's so many friends on Facebook and we're so busy with our shows that it's difficult to catch everyone's posts, but we did have some quite interesting discussions at one time, didn't we, Dad?
We certainly did. Yes, we did. Where should we start? I was kind of thinking, which bit of me would you like?
Yeah,
I can talk on just about anything.
Yeah, well, you wrote a nice little piece for the page, the Blog Talk page, and rather than my reading it out, I decided it would be better that you would, describe yourself in your own words. Just maybe sort of, just describe like who you are, from your own perspective, and what you feel your mission is. I think at this point, many of us have really kind of started to grasp what our mission is on planet Earth at this time. And I think I'd be very interested into what you feel yours is and some of the things you've been doing to sort of really get to. Now, I coined this word enflowment, and it really means living in balanced, harmonious flow with respect for all around you. And I feel that basically that's really pretty much all of us are looking for. And my question to you would be, what do you feel that you've been doing to get yourself into that enflowment?
Well, it depends whether that's deliberately or whether it's the what I designed in my life track.
Well, all of it's relevant, isn't it?
I am a seeker of boundaries, it seems, once I got going. Look for boundaries and transcend them. I had, my heart was shut down at 3 months in a trauma involving serious betrayal by my mother and shaken and strangled to death, and had a near-death experience. And in that experience, I realized I was an eternal soul. I didn't remember it at the time, but later when I remembered having the experience and realized who I'd become in that moment. But at that point, my heart shut down completely, and I lived on my brain for a good 45 years after that before I managed to get it open. And when I did, it was a little baby's heart. It was untainted by the outside world, which is rather lovely.
Oh, yes. That must have been a nice feeling.
It was. It's. I actually drove about 20 miles in my car, completely oblivious to anything that was outside. I suddenly plunged into my heart. I could see my ego kind of a long way off as a mouldy green blob. And I was inside this pristine heart, which was a sphere, and then I realized the sphere was Earth. I was right in the middle of Gaia, and I could know everyone on the surface of the planet. I love them all so dearly. It was absolutely brilliant, a real lovely unfolding.
I can really equate with that, Dick. I've had a lot of wonderful visions and experiences, and I actually nearly died when I was 10, and I had an out-of-body experience there where I came across some other beings. It was wonderful. Are you still there?
Yes.
I'm still here, yes.
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Having had the heart shut down and relying on the brain, this meant things like in my teens, I deliberately constructed a set of emotional responses because I didn't have any. And things like that. So I lived a lie for a lot of my life on constructed and false persona, and it wasn't until I found my heart that the real me started coming out. All sorts of things help that. The harp is beautiful for bringing the heart out and for expressing. But in that confinement, it's like losing a sense. Other things take over. I became a thinker and discovered Jnana Yoga at the age of 9, and spent an awful long time contemplating where I come from, what am I, who am I, where do I begin, where do I end, what is the sound of one hand clapping, that kind of thing. And I discovered pranayama and did a lot of funny breathing through my teens, done all sorts of meditations, trying to find myself. I explored the limits of death on the motorbike when I was in my late teens. I went on the boundaries quite a lot there.
Wow.
And found transcendence there as well.
I think you're in my neck of the woods on your motorbike. We've talked about that before, around Windsor area and Maidenhead. And
yes. If you blinked, you would have missed me.
Dick, what actually was your physical heart condition?
Nothing physical. Just,
right.
I was Asperger's.
Right.
I didn't, when I, in the playground and I saw emotional responses, I didn't understand what was going on. I was, in primary school, I was that little kid that was balancing on his toes around the edge of the playground. There were monsters on one side and jagged rocks on the other side, or whatever it was at the time. And I was having to balance to stay safe. And so I was living on the edge of life, on the edge of the playground, when all the other kids were playing football and skipping and stuff. So I guess I was quite autistic and dyslexic and dyspraxic. And so I went into my brain instead, and that works pretty well. For pattern recognition, and especially for pattern recognition, it's off the charts. But what that meant was, because I'm looking at boundaries and I'm asking these questions, I just went further and further and further until I found the answer. which is one. And it's so simple. It's incredibly difficult to see because it is so simple. But the only thing that is needed for all of this to exist is one. Whatever question you ask, if you start pulling it apart and digging down to where it begins, you end up at one. You can't even have a concept without knowing you are one. And it's that oneness, the quality of oneness, that permeates everything. Because when you look down at one, it's got 5 essences, 5 natures, 5 ways of seeing it. And it's those 5 differences, 5 variations within it, that working together on each other create all this amazing complexity we see. And when you come down to it, it's that simple.
It's what we're all talking about a lot on our shows, about one. We're all one, even though we're individual pieces of a holographic puzzle, where we are just parts of that one, which is the whole puzzle.
Absolutely.
The one in heart, yes, absolutely.
And there's that. The one's got these natures. There's the oneness of singularity. There is only one. And that uniqueness then spreads throughout the rest of creation, in that there is never any repeats.
Yes, absolutely.
There are loads of things that are the same, that every single particle is unique. The other thing is the oneness of unity, which you were talking about there, that bonding force that brings everything together.
Yes.
But it's a bonding force from the outside, because unity also defines a boundary. If you see the unity as a singularity, they're standing separate from it, and you see everything within a singularity. So the unity is also a boundary around the outside. Within that, you have to have duality, because if there is one, there is always not one. And in the primal sense, the void is the not one. You've got the void and the one. And you can't separate the void from the one. If you look at the void, there is only one void. And if you look at the one and ask what it is, it's nothing, it's the void. So you can't tear them apart, but they're 2 different sides of the same thing. So they're joined, and that joining thing is the continuity, that the energy of that join is what binds everything together from within. It's that continuity that connects everyone immediately to the source. There is no separation. It's that there's that continuity is another aspect of the oneness that holds things together in oneness. And then finally, there is variation. Because everything is unique and there's multiple things, there must be variation. And within that variation, we can always find spectrums of variations, because all variations exist. And it's those spectrums that end up resonating with each other and creating all this wonderful stuff we see around us.
That's wonderful, yes. I can see where you're coming from with that. It's the things that we often talk about ourselves, because it's like I say, you can't be separate from anything, but it's like this whole oneness has to have different understandings and different meanings, different variations in order to become whole.
Yes, yes. Being the one thing that is common to everything, you can see it from many, many directions. And once I found this internal core, I could see people throughout history that had found a bit of it. And I likened it to this wonderful great diamond that's been sitting in the middle of the road, and it's been there for so long that no one notices it anymore. And occasionally someone will go up and scrub the dust off one of the faces and look inside and go, gosh, that's amazing, I better go and tell the world. And we've got Euclid and Newton and people like that, where I can see that they've discovered a part of this, but they haven't seen all of it. And when you see all of it, it pulls all of them together, and you see the one single truth that they're all saying a part of.
Yes.
And that's in every moment, every particle within us. And knowing that gave me the centre of the wheel. If all this change is a great wheel that's turning round, in the centre is the axle, still unmoving, unchanging. That's the one. And everything else around it is change. And being able to hold on to that still point is an absolute concrete anchor. Nothing, once you've found that solidly, nothing can shift you. because you can always just go and hold on to it and know that you are immovable. And I had an experience directly of the one. I was amalgamating my inner senses. Lots of people hear sounds in their heads. That's called logos in some terms. There is the inner vision and the ability to see life outside the ordinary sight can't see. There's the inner smell, which Archangel Michael dropped on me during one meditation. Suddenly this smell appeared, and I looked around the room for where it was, and it wasn't anywhere except in my nose. And then I smelt the smell and remembered, and all these messages started coming through. So there's smell as well, and there's taste, and there's the inner feeling, and I amalgamated all those senses as one thing. And in that point of unification, I went straight to the one, and I experienced eternity. I experienced infinity from one moment and one point. I literally lived every life that has ever been lived. I experienced that immensity of time, but in a moment. I experienced the entire power of the universe, but was so soft and gentle that nothing happened.
Yes, that's experiencing.
It was this incredible contradiction of everything and nothing all at the same time, without any contradiction, without any paradox. It was all unified because it was being seen as a multidimensional form. So for me, that gives me a really solid point to come to. And when I came back here, if you like, from there, the greatest realization I carried with me was be yourself. There isn't anything else to do but be yourself.
You're making me smile, Dick. I mean, the first, when you were talking about the smells and seeing, I mean, I'm very familiar with what I call the clairs, the clairvoyance,
Yeah.
Not many people realize that there's clair aroma, where you can smell things. There's clair gustus, when you can taste things. I've written a blog about that recently, actually, about all these different faculties we have. But it's very much about, it's when I have experiences about being really in the now. And there's time, but when you're in that space, there is no time. So everything is now, and everything you ever were and will be is in that space there. So I understand exactly what you're talking about, and it's a wonderful place to be.
It's also very interesting too that
Absolutely.
you just said,
in my youth.
Sorry, I think we've got a time thing going on. Carry on.
That's all right. You said you just said.
I was just going to say that you mentioned all you can be is you. And I think many of us have experienced that time of not being ourselves. I think you mentioned that too. And I spent quite a long time being not me. I lost me, and I let somebody take over my life and myself and squash me down, and I let go of the real Jerry. And it took me quite a long time to find myself again, and now I've found myself. I understand that it's so important to be just your authentic self and just to continue to be you. And that's, part of being your individual authentic self, and it's very important. That's really, sounds to me, what you're very much talking about.
I'm also, when you were talking about your childhood at school, Dick, I've just written about this in a blog a couple of days ago as well. I was very much born in a world of my own, and I lived in a daydream world between here and some other worlds. And I was very much like you, where in the playground, I was just wandering around in a world of my own. It was like I was in a different space and time to everybody else, and I didn't really relate to people at all around me.
No, same here. Very much so. Quite, in some ways, quite lonely, and I guess I found a friend in myself.
I'll have to send you a link to my blog I've just written. It's called Growing Up Alone in the World.
That sounds
you might
good.
like that.
That sounds very good. I was wondering if I think I can guide people towards the what did you call it? Clairnasence, the clear smelling.
That's clair aroma.
clear aroma.
Yes.
Because what I found was I get it very much at the back of the sinuses. Ordinary smell is more forwards in the nose, near the nostrils. But I find if I breathe very gently and focus at the back, you can start becoming aware of other scents. You can go to flowers that you didn't think you could smell at all and smell ever so gently, and you can begin to discern it at the back of the nose. And once I'm tuned in, I can look across a field and smell a flower several hundred yards away. I can, especially trees, when I tune into trees, I often feel like a drop of nectar coming down the back of my throat, and I can tune into them. I can project down through the trees into the roots and smell the soil, and I can project up into the leaves and smell the blossoms. And it's when you tune in, it's absolutely wonderful, really expanding.
Yes, it is, and it's the same with tasting. You can taste things as well, even if you're not eating. You can,
yes,
you can go back through your life and you can taste something that you had before. You can literally taste it, and it's not just how it's coming to you and where it's coming to you. You're talking about at the back of your nasal cavity. It's if you in another state of mind rather than your 3D physical self, then it can come to you in different ways. But it's just really getting out of your physical being with your mind, so that you're able to experience these things. Yes. Yes.
Which is probably coming more to the foundational level that we actually use to create this supposed reality out here, because that's coming through us first. I think one of the greatest mysteries in life is why we ever trip over curbstones. We put them there just to trip over. Is anyone still there, or am I on my own?
Yes, we're still here.
Sorry.
You remind me of something. Did you ever watch The Matrix? I guess you did. Everybody saw The Matrix.
Yes.
There's a scene in that it just really was amazing, where Neo went to see the Oracle, and as he walked in, she said, "Be careful of the vase." Do you remember that bit?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and what happened was, as she said that, he knocked it over and it broke. And he said, "How did you?" And she said, "What's really going to," I think she said something like, "what's really going to confuse you later is, would you have knocked it over if I hadn't have told you about it first?" That's very intriguing, very.
It is. And part of the confusion that arises out of that is because we believe there is cause and effect. We think a cause happens and then an effect, because we see that in time, but you can't take the cause away from the effect. You can't have a cause without an effect, and you can't have an effect without a cause. They're two ends of the same stick. If you've got one, you've got the other one.
Exactly. So
this is easier to see when there's no time. You see they are connected, and you see they're just if you like, in different places. But the whole universe is like that. The whole thing is connected. It's I like to see it that everything pre-exists, and we have some choices to our direction through it. That there's all possibilities of manifest.
Yes, and there's never a question where an answer doesn't exist. There's always an equal and opposite everywhere.
Exactly. I like to think of the question as a whole, the shape of the answer.
Yes.
You might be searching around or for a long time outside looking for the answer that will fit in the hole, when all you have to do is look at the shape of the hole and you know what the answer is.
Exactly. And the answer is always looking for you. Well, rather the question is always looking for you.
Absolutely. I usually find the energy of trying, the energy of seeking outside tends to push things away, and it's a lot better to tune the mind in the frequency you want, and then go into acceptance and allow the thing to come to you, allow the answer to return. I was doing silver mind control when I met my partner, and one of the girls there programmed for an answer for something at before a specific time, and she got on the bus like 5 minutes before the time was up, and she hadn't had her answer yet, and she was getting frustrated, and she was sitting there. Where's my answer? And she's looking outside and looking around, waiting for someone to come up and give her the answer. And then she looked on the back of the seat, and it was written there.
Exactly. That's what the whole of my life is about. Yes.
Exactly the second she was supposed to get the answer, there it was, straight in front of her.
Exactly. You just need to let go, because the answer will come to you in a way that you really don't realize. It could come from somebody else walking down the street talking to their friend, and they just look at you and they give you an answer when they're not even talking to you. It comes from anywhere and everywhere.
Absolutely. Which I kind of come full circle, because I just realized where I've been going. From the one, I recreated my sense of reality and came into my heart from the inside. I couldn't get through from the outside. It was like encased in concrete and armoured steel, and nothing I did would get in, and it just hurt a lot if I tried. But by coming from the one, I manifest myself inside and could then open the heart up from there, which was quite interesting that emotion can come out of rationality. It did in the first place, because the source is rational. The source is entirely rational. It's the epitome of rationality, and all this wonderful stuff like consciousness and emotion comes out as more complexity develops within it, and in the self-referential nature of reality builds upon itself, cycle after cycle, resonance after resonance, until we get here and enjoy this wonderful life.
Beautiful. It reminds me of Jerry's Inflowment that her shows are about and she's always talking about.
Yes. I really think that it's really what everybody is looking for, is to live this life of the perfect enflowment. I brought that word into being when I was looking to describe what it is when, we were all listening to the radio shows with the 5D Media Network, and they were very much talking about how they didn't like to be called a movement. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to describe this as when I tell people what I'm doing and what people I'm connecting with? And that word just popped into my head. And I felt that the description that it's living in balanced, harmonious flow with respect for all around you is basically what we are all looking to do. So that's really what I kind of speak about a lot, and I get people to come and talk about what they do to get there. And that's, something that I feel in my heart. But again, is what we're all looking for. We talk to the indigenous people. That's what they're looking for. That's what they describe in their way. So it's basically, I think that's what we're all looking to do.
So how old were you at that? Sorry,
go on.
How old were you at that point, Dick?
Well, when my heart opened?
Yes.
That was, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
There have been intimations of that before, but yes. Stay shut for over half a century, so. But it was for a purpose, because it enabled me in a way to concentrate on the work of refining and defining the nature of one, out of which generate 5 levels of logic. The first level is a bit like formal logic. The second level is a bit like dialectic logic that we generally use in society these days. The third level is a cyclic logic, which goes beyond do unto others as you would be done by. That's the cycle where you're beginning to work more harmoniously. But then we're coming up to your flow, because the next set of logics is a set of harmonic logics, of resonant logics. And that deals with flow and harmony, and love is just harmony. Harmony is love. There can't be a disharmonious love. And when the love on this planet just increases more and more harmony results, and we sing this beautiful song of love, and people start to join in. And we're so fast coming to the tipping point where we'll be able to see it really manifesting, because the energies are just get off the wall at the moment, and it's just beautiful to behold.
I can't understand people who say that nothing changed in 2012, because it's just exploded since then. It's not just within most of us that are experiencing these energy changes, but it's what's going on in the world as well, and how much information, how much truth
Yes.
is being spewed out on the internet, and how many people are speaking up. It's just all coming together beautifully.
Yes. Yes. That's absolute truth. There's so much truth coming out, isn't there? I mean, really. Fantastic.
That is true.
Yeah.
So how did you, that's when you started playing the harp?
Oh, I started that about 35 years ago. A smaller one at first. And I couldn't resist this big one. The smaller one got too small. I had to break the limits. And I first learnt with Tina Bonifacio, who is a concert harpist in her later life. And I turn up every week and show her something new that she'd never even dreamed of to do with the harp. I just like exploring exploring boundaries and going beyond them.
And I guess that comes to you inspirationally.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's where I was going to get back to boundaries earlier, because the important thing about the ascension is the boundary. One side of the boundary we're not ascended, the other side you're ascended. And it's the nature of that boundary that's important. But every boundary I've been to, even the boundary between wakefulness and sleepfulness, the boundary between the inside world and the outside world, you always reach a point where it's neither this nor that, and yet both at the same time. If you look at any boundary, if you look at the boundary of yourself, your skin, you only need a powerful enough microscope to start becoming confused as to which is the outside and which is the inside. Where the air oxidizes the surface of the skin, the air is becoming the skin, and where the skin rubs off and becomes dust in the air, the skin is becoming the air. And there is no boundary you can look at. If you look at it really closely, it always fades away. Where you begin when I was conceived, you just got to always keep going back until you arrive at the one. Where was I coming with this? Boundaries. So the boundary is a state where it's neither this nor that, yet this and that at the same time. And that paradoxical state is where the real magic happens. That's the magic of getting into boundaries, and that will be the magic of our transcendence, the ascension. And what at the moment seems like a boundary to us, seems like something that traps us in this 3D realm, apparently is going to be turned into a plane of bliss. Once it's opened and the light floods through, darkness can no longer exist here, because there will only be light. And the thing I'm really, really excited about, people have talked about light bodies, but what I've been told is that when this light comes through, this flesh that is our vehicle will also be given life. At the moment it's dead. It's only animated because our spirit is inside it. As soon as we let go, it returns to earth. And it's the same with everything that there is. There is a spirit inside every grain of sand holding it together. And the only reason this lot stays looking alive is because of the spirit infested in it. But when the barrier comes down and the light comes through, the light will illuminate this and give new life to everything. So your body will then have a life in its own right, will be eternal. You'll be able to change appearance at your whim, have all sorts of extra powers, because it will be a living thing. And instead of, at the moment, it's almost like a remote-controlled toy. We're waggling the sticks to make it move, and the vehicle moves. But after the ascension, the vehicle will have its own life. We'll still be bonded with it, but the vehicle will have a whole new nature. I find that so wonderful. This is the point of the creation of new life into this, a whole new plane of existence of life.
Your description of ascension seems to me that you're talking about cracking the matrix, so that a matrix will no longer exist. Do you understand what I mean by that? Because the matrix is what has kept us on autopilot.
I do. These are all very synonymous. One of the other examples I've been given is in mathematics. You can prove something in one branch of mathematics that you can't in another branch. So between the two branches of mathematics, there is a boundary of what is provable and what is not provable. And if you start looking at that boundary, it goes very indistinct, and you find things that are both provable together, even though they're contradictory, or neither are provable, so nothing exists. And that boundary is like the barrier that appears to be holding this in at the moment. It's a zone of indeterminacy.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much anyone that goes in there loses their way and gets kicked back out again. I see it as a mist, and I got through it with pure logic by hanging on to pure logic to get my way through. And it was like when I was in the playground, balancing on the edge of the playground. It was like standing on a knife edge in the mist, where you can't see a thing, and you just have to kind of sense ahead of you and step forwards in little ginger steps at a time. And then you make a mistake or something distracts you, and I'd fall off, and I'd fall back into 3D, and then I'd have to meditate back into the mist again. And over months and months, I found the path through the mist, one step at a time, and the path defined the one. And when I defined the one, I was at the edge of the path, and I could see clearly.
It's interesting that you describe it as logic, because I can understand totally what you're saying about being in the mist. You know, I describe my childhood and other times when I go into otherworldly areas, that I just describe it as a shift, and I'm not my physical self anymore. Yeah. And it happens simultaneously. I don't have to meditate or anything, it just happens. But I always steer away from logic, because I talk about the difference between the brain and the mind. And so to me, the mind is a living being that connects to the void and all that is, and the brain is something that's helping, you know, us physically here. It's a logical brain, and so I tend to steer away from the word of logic in that instance.
Okay, I don't know if there's another word it would be better.
You understand what I mean?
I do. Although the path was logical, the journey was not quite intuitive. There was a feeling, and when I reached out with my mind in a certain direction, I had this feeling of rightness. So I'd poke around in the mist for this feeling of rightness, and then I'd hang on to it, and that would be my next logical step. But I felt my way to the next step.
Yes. I understand exactly what you're saying. It's not. Yeah, you're calling it logic because I understand what you're saying, because you're going from one step to the other, but you're feeling it.
Yes.
So yes, I understand. So it's intuitive. Yes.
I started going into this mist by saying, okay, I want to find the truth. Let's take away everything that I know is not the truth, and there wasn't anything left. You know, once you start looking deeply at anything, it as a truth, it vanishes until you find the one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I suppose I defined my path to the one as a logical path, but in doing that, from within those logic, the logics create a matrix themselves, and within that matrix, all other systems of logic can be found, all other philosophies, all religions, all sciences can be found within that matrix of logic.
Yes, of course.
So it's the boundary, if you like, the bounding logic, as well as being the internal logic.
Yeah.
And that's even God cannot be without being one.
And we are all God anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I see the one as, if you like, almost purely mathematical, which generates a set of mathematical consequences, out of which develops the first consciousness, which I would call God, and that consciousness then spreads until it becomes us, and we're just part of this one wonderful, great thing, all connected. And in this moment, that is so fun, isn't it? Right now.
It's interesting how we come to the same kind of feelings, but on slightly different paths, because you always talk about it in mathematical terms. I always talk about it in scientific terms, because science, all the different branches of science have different answers, and they're never quite right. And so I guess it's the same kind of thing.
Very much so, yes. I used to love reading the New Scientist magazine here, and just about every week I'd read it through it, and I'd find two articles where it was obvious that if the two guys talked to each other, they could solve each other's problems. But here they were in this magazine in separate articles saying they didn't know how to do this. There is always a view where you could see them without contradiction. Every paradox except one can be risen above. Because when a paradox comes out of a duality, so you see something as being two separate contradictory things, and you can create a paradox. But if you stand above them and see they're both part of the same thing, the paradox disappears.
That's exactly the answer, and that's what they don't do, because they're all set in their little, it's what I call the need to know. They're all working on their need to know little box, and they don't join it together at all.
I have, probably unique to me, this notion of dimensionality, which is that if you can define something on a graph as a point on a single line, then you can call it a dimension. So heat, weight, all those sort of things. But when it comes down to it, you can define everything as a dimension. They've even managed to get algorithms for various emotions in the brain now. You could write a computer code that described the entire universe. It would be very big, but it would just be a number. I lost where we're going with this now.
Perhaps the answer is 42.
Perhaps it is. Okay, would you like to come in on paperwork stuff, because we can do that as well. The Freeman.
Yes, just start off how you came to think about these things, Dec, and what's going on.
Well, the Freeman side.
Let's just start with that. How you came to being drawn into that.
That came about with. We went on a Save the Pound march in London, and it was a very, very big march and incredibly noticeable. And we all rushed home expecting something on the news, and there wasn't anything. And we grabbed all the newspapers the next morning, there wasn't a mention. And that was probably the moment we realised how concocted the news is, because this was a major event and deserved to be reported. All the people in with the dark glasses on taking photos and video cameraing us were there, and all the police were there, but the press decided not to turn up, it seems. And that was the beginning of the shattering of the illusion, and the more we looked, the more obvious it became, to the extent that when I saw the plane fly into the Twin Towers, I thought, oh my God, what have they done? Immediately thinking of the American government. So I got to that stage then, more and more unfolding all the histories we've been lied about. I already knew the scientific truth about the pharmaceutical companies and how that affected the medical parts, and in terms of that, our health, and really and truly how millions of people every year are literally murdered because someone wants to have their profit. And I got very, very angry about that for a long time. And it still saddens me, but we all chose to do this. And it's the challenge we faced. We knew what was coming. And what I used to see as being dark, along the journey I explored Freeman stuff and doing all the paperwork, and I have an agreement with the Queen and the Prime Minister that I'm a free man. And in fact, the Prime Minister has agreed on behalf of, has tacit agreement on behalf of all the world's governments that we're all free, and that fiat currency has no value, and things like that. But unfortunately, all the courts, or any access to any kind of justice that one might think of, they don't recognise truth, they don't recognise reason, they don't recognise fact. It's a completely fictitious system, and the only things that they recognise are lies and fictions, because that's where they live. So there is no way within the system of being recognised as being truly free. I've changed my name by default to emissary decahedron5d, because the decahedron is my name for the logical construct that I see as the one. But my name cannot be recognised by the authorities because it won't go into one of their computers. They can't type it in, so I can't be recognised. So instead, they trespass on my own decision of what I want to call myself, and they call me something else, and try and handle me that way. But ultimately, there's nothing they can do to me because I know that I'm free inside. They can lock me up, and I'll still be free inside. But I found that sovereignty, and I have no fear of them anymore. And I also see that the pain that we see out there is actually, in the end, for our greatest benefit, because it's the depths of degradation and pain and suffering that we've been into that is the driving force to head us into ascension. If we had been all nice and cozy, we would have had no impulse to go anywhere else. We chose, I've been told that this has been tried that the purpose is to take down the barrier, to make this area free, this level of dimensionality. And it's been tried all across eternity by other cultures and other races on other planets, and they've either failed or destroyed themselves. And on this planet we have the examples of Lemuria and Atlantis attempting the same thing and destroying themselves, and now we're doing it again. But this time, this is like the final option that they knew would work, but no one wanted to do because it's tough. And they sent the call out to the universe, and all the greatest and best answered to come down and do this work, to put themselves through this suffering that we've been through, because they knew it was the only way. When the mass awakening happens, when everyone wakes up and realizes the joke and starts that amazed laughter, oh my God, is this what it's really been? And I thought it was that, that kind of feeling. I'm sure that those that have woken up just to the world situation, when you start finding out things and you get, wow, that's amazing, on a scale, on a 100% scale of opening, all across the world, that mass energy of amazement, joy and love that will generate out of this realization, it is that degree of harmony that will take down the disharmony of the barrier and unify the universe, take away the separation, give us life, bring joy. And it won't be just for us, it will resonate across this galaxy, across this universe. And I've been shown images of pulling out on a long zoom and seeing the energy of what we're doing just flashing right across the whole of reality, because we change the very essence of what everything is based on. And in that moment, everything changes.
Yeah.
And seeing as you're creating this universe, you're the one that's responsible. It's up to you. Get it?
Awesome. That sounds just what we're all waiting for. But my question to you is: Do you think we have to wait, or do we have to take action? Like, you've taken some sort of action, and you talk about having let the Prime Minister and the Queen know that you're a free man. Do you feel that's a really important part for all of us to stand up and state that I am free, and whatever you do and say to me, I still am free. Like you said, even if you're locked up, you're still free inside.
Right. That was my path at the time, and I respect other people taking that path, but I feel I've transcended that stage now. If you're sovereign, you shouldn't have to spend time rebuffing fictional idiots that don't know what they're doing. You can ignore them, and when you get the right attitude, they seem to melt away. Yeah. We're no longer afraid of bailiffs now. I faced up to the bailiffs, and I know that they will not willingly commit violence against you. And once they know that you know, the game's over.
Yeah.
and you can just tell him to go away. The last one, I gave him a hug before he went. And now I know they can't do anything. I feel perfectly secure. So, and a lot of other things that that's the thing with paperwork. It can take an awful lot of your time.
Yes.
A lot of work, a lot of stress, lots of paper, lots of ink. What a lot of ink. Cluttering your computer up with hundreds of files. Yep. Getting confused, trying to find the last one you wrote to them and how it all connects together, and having to read back through all the old letters just to make sure it goes on and on and on. And I don't want to have to do all that just to be free when I can be free inside. But some people might need to find out by going down that route first.
Right.
And it does help inform the authorities.
Yes. Yeah.
Of course, which is always a jolly good
everyone has their own different part to play, and it definitely seems to me that some of us do have to do that, and some don't, and some are still just like oblivious to the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
So each of us has that part to play. I've been in different parts myself. I am going on a route at the moment with some paperwork. I'm feeling that I need to do it. But that's where I'm at the moment. But I totally understand what you're saying about you've been there and you're through that. And the main thing you said is once you let go of the fear, everything changes.
Absolutely.
It does. It has done for me. I've had fear about authority all my life, a very irrational one. And I actually did a process that George Cavassos had shown Sheila and myself, and it's really helped me to let go of that connection and that tie. And letting go of fear is a huge step. So I know that's been binding many people, is the fear of repercussions and all of that. And once you become completely free inside, you can let go of all the external stuff. You don't get, like you said, you don't get affected by them anymore. They seem to melt away. And I think I'm kind of making slow progress in that direction. I've put out energetic protection to myself now.
Yes.
Starting to take effect. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear people's journeys.
I think I went with the paperwork. I went along with beginning with templates that other people have put up and copying other people's stuff. And then eventually writing my own.
Yeah.
And then ultimately making my own law, because that's what sovereigns do.
Exactly.
You say, this is the law, do you agree with it? Sorry, I didn't hear you. This is the law, did you agree with it? Silence.
Yeah.
I'll give you one last chance. Do you agree with this? Okay, it's not objecting, it's the law. And that is actually fun, writing your own stuff.
Yeah.
And I wrote what amounts to a constitution, basically, as my notice of understanding, and that was based entirely on the logics. So I went back to the source and wrote it from there.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, because neither of us would be where we are now if we didn't take our own road. So we're all doing different things to come to the understanding of where we are now. And if you didn't go through that paperwork process, Dick, you probably wouldn't be who you are.
Absolutely not. No, I don't regret it in the least. Some of it was quite traumatic. Standing up in court wasn't much fun, but I got used to that after a while. And when the judge that took our house away literally ran out of court, screaming over his shoulder, no appeal, because he didn't want me to say another word. I was that close to getting through. In terms of law, he made his judgment as I said I don't agree. So in terms of law, the judgment wasn't made because he had no agreement from me. But of course, in terms of legislation, once the judge has said something, it's the truth, even if it's false. He even admitted that he didn't know the law in front of me. And he admitted that the mortgage company didn't have a leg to stand on, but he said, I'm not going to overturn 200 years of tradition. Gave it to the bank. Wow. And then I got stonewalled at every level trying to get any justice higher than that. So, so we lost our house, and lived in the car for a bit in the middle of winter. That was fun.
Oh wow.
So that's I paid with 2 cars and 2 houses. First house wasn't deliberately part of that route, but the second house was almost a direct consequence of me doing the paperwork. So that there are tough consequences.
It's not the destination.
Yeah, it's the journey.
It's the journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what brings us all our understanding and knowledge.
And if you've got something to lose, it can be a frightening journey. But when you get to the point where you haven't got anything to lose, there's nothing they can threaten you with anymore.
Right.
They've taken my house, they've taken my car.
Right.
And I've still got my harp, and they can't get in and get that.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, they can't take your heart away.
No. My heart or my harp.
Yeah, I thought you said harp.
Oh, you said your harp.
You
I
can't
say
take
your
the
heart. They can't take your heart either.
No, they can't.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, Jerry and I, we come together on these shows and we thoroughly enjoy each other's guests, but we're both actually walking totally different lives, and we've had different growing up experiences. But so it's interesting. We understand a lot of different points of view from that.
Well, we're all walking from a slightly different place, so we all have to walk in different directions to get to the same place.
Yes.
We'll all end up in the same place, but we're coming from all over the place, so we're just going in different directions, seeing different territories.
Exactly. But it's so nice to connect with somebody on a different path, and you still gel and you can still work together. That's what's interesting.
You still resonate with what they're talking about and understand what they're saying and understand where they're going, but it's not the same, which is really cool.
It's interesting as well because I don't know if you know, Dick, we do a show on Monday nights with Indigenous people, and we've come in contact with a lot of Indigenous peoples lately, and they're all trying to come together now as different tribes, but the same, keep all their own traditions because they are all different. So they've all been on different paths, but now they all want to come together, keeping their individuality, but coming together as a whole.
That is amazing. That is very good. Of course, they're the sovereigns, and one of the things that is interesting in Britain is that we are the British Aboriginals. Where Britons, the Anglo-Saxon influence was very, very small genetically. They were only ever our overlords. So where the original 90% are still original Aboriginal bloodstock.
Yeah.
The Romans didn't have very much effect, but the Anglo-Saxons did manage to make the law, which is why we're now called Anglo-Saxons, and we speak Anglish.
Yes. The Romans did have a big effect over the whole world, though. I know that the history says they didn't have much effect in England, but they're responsible for a lot of the things that go on in the world today. Started with the Romans and with the Bible and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
all that stuff.
Emperor Constantine, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yet it was his great-grandson, King Arthur, or the King Arthur the First, there were 2 of them. It was his great-grandson that chased the Roman army all the way across Europe, all the way down into South Africa. Which is such a great and wonderful deed, and it's recorded in church floors and monuments all the way across Europe, and everyone else knows about it but us.
Brilliant.
And just down the road from here, there's a stone wall where the Welsh turned the Romans back. Just like Hadrian's Wall, only a lot smaller. But you think someone would mark it, or at least say this was some sort of great event happened here and get the tourists in, but it's just a line of stones through a field.
Yeah, that's all the hidden history. I mean, they put all this stuff out in the history books that really is totally untrue. Yeah. And you have to go and investigate things yourself to find out the truth.
Yeah. And especially where the truth, Wales has got a lot of absolutely amazing history that the English are desperate for them not to find about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the English don't want anybody to know about.
Same as the Irish. And they even went as far as banning musical instruments in Ireland, so they couldn't sing songs about the English.
Brilliant. Where else?
It's all this divide and conquer that's gone on since the beginning of time, really, isn't it? It's just amazing that people are only now just realising what's going on. Yeah, it was all a big plan, really. But the Irish are doing really well in their sovereignties and keeping their houses. There's been a lot of things on the internet where they've asked the bailiffs to move away, and the police have come and they put the police under their oath for the people, and they've had to send the bailiffs away. Excellent.
It is brilliant. It is having some effect. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I know the bailiffs, the evicting bailiffs have been turned away many times in this country. The ones that are just coming for goods, it's a piece of cake these days.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have the confidence, because it's their fear that gets you in the first place. Once you have the confidence, there's nothing they can do.
Exactly. I mean, when they come banging on your door, and they're always big, huge guys. They come in like, excuse me, they come in threes.
Yep.
It's very threatening, and people just usually walk out of their house or hand things over because they're in such a state, and that's what they rely on doing. And really what they've shown in Ireland, when they've stood outside people's houses in huge crowds and asked the police to ask for the proper paperwork for the bailiffs that have the ability to take away their house, and they haven't been able to produce it, so they've been turned away by the police.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
That's really good. So shall we take our break now then? We've got...
somebody wrote something in the chat room. The Anglo-Saxons were always trying to take control of the tribes in Wales. They were and are true warriors.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things is that Welsh is actually an Anglo-Saxon insult for foreigner. So the way you're calling people the Welsh, I always think maybe Cymru or something like that is better. But
they've done that all over the world. Even
they have.
Aboriginals, they don't like that word because it means that they're not Aboriginals.
Yeah,
yes.
Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same everywhere.
Well, crazy use of language. Anyway, I'll let you get to your break. I love you both.
Yes, love you too. We will continue after our break.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Enflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.
And welcome back, everyone. And if anybody out there would like to call in, it would be really nice for you to call us in. The number, if I can remember it rightly, because my screen is froze right now, it's 718.
It's
718-506-1564. Haha. Yeah, I'm out of it, Sheila. It's have I gone?
No, you're still there.
Okay.
I saw that you refreshed the page, but
yeah, I did. Yeah, it's just it's unresponsive, so forget about me in the studio. But anyway, yes, there's the call-in number. Call in, please, or call in on the Skype button. And I'm sure Dec would love to answer anybody's questions or discuss any people's thoughts on all of this, because it's a really wonderful, wonderful conversation we're having here.
And it's so broad as well.
Yes.
So we can go anywhere.
We can go anywhere, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where would you like to go, Dec?
Well, I was just remember I started getting into dimensionality or dimensions, and calling us three-dimensional beings is so confining, so restrictive. It mentally blocks you in. We may only be able to define a point in three-dimensional space, but if you actually had an object in three-dimensional space, you'd need 6 dimensions because you'd have to say which way up it was as well. So it's more than 3 dimensions. There are many dimensions imprinted in this fabric, and just about everything you look at is really just a different dimension. And we're dimensionals. We flip from one dimension to the other so freely and so easily we don't even see we're doing it. When you look at a film on the computer or television and see something that's a reality, you've just slipped into a different dimension. You've got a different dimension of vision to the one you've normally got because you're having to recreate three-dimensional reality from a flat image. And we change dimensions so easily, we haven't noticed it. But once you start looking at it and noticing how you're changing dimensions, you get a clue as to how you can change dimensions. And then you get to start choosing which dimensions you're changing. And one way of seeing the ascension is that when we all decide to change collectively to a different dimension, a dimension of harmony and a dimension of love and joy, and create a new earth and a new universe in the process.
I think that's just, yes, it's wonderful. They do touch on it in some aspects in things like quantum physics. They start going down the road there, and then they're really almost there, but then other people start arguing with them, saying that can't be right, can't exist, and doing all these things. But there's so many people out there now that are looking at different aspects of how our mind works, how our brain works, how we really can exist outside ourselves, and the dream state as well. So much research is going on about the dream state.
It certainly is. The conclusion I have is that everything is information. You can't have a thing without it being information. So it's and you can't look at the physical world and say where it came from. Certainly not with any certainty. They can't see ultimately where matter came from. They can't say where the energy came from. They can't say where the structure and the organisation came from. They can't say where the emotionality and the sentience came from. But if you look at information, you can see where information came from. Because once you define it as one, and that one has certain logical consequences, and unfold those logical consequences, all else develops out of that. All information is produced. And that information then, if you like, condenses down through the dimensions until we end up seeing it as a physical reality here.
Exactly. That's why I talk about the information field that surrounds us. And really, when we see something and recognize it, it's only because that's what we've been taught.
Yes.
It's what
absolutely.
we've been taught that is, and our brain tries to make things up. So if it sees something it doesn't recognize, and there's gaps in its understanding, it will actually make something up and decide it's something else.
It certainly will. It certainly will. My example of that is that if a Westerner has a transcendent experience, it'll probably see Christ or the Virgin Mary. If some native South American has a transcendent experience, they'll see a South American God, and so on. In China, we'll see Chinese images, and we project onto our experience pretty much what we expect to see there.
Yes, and from our memories as well.
The Roman artists were sent to Egypt to draw the friezes on the Egyptian friezes they'd made. And when they took them back, they were pictures of Roman soldiers. So they didn't know how to do anything else. They looked at these Egyptian things and then just drew them the way they knew how to draw. We define the reality we expect to see, and if it's not the one you want, it's up to us to change it.
See, that's where I have a problem. Jerry knows I'm always talking about this word belief. You see, because everything is energy, and energy should be moving and flowing. And if you believe something, you actually get stuck in that space. And so what you believe is what you see and hear. And until you let go of that belief, you can't experience any other information coming into you.
That is very, very true. Very, very true. Which is why it's important to throw away all assumptions. But the belief is kind of integral. We wouldn't be here at all without belief. If you imagine if everything starts at the one, then it must divide and subdivide before it gets here, and each subdivision, like starting at the trunk of a tree and going up towards a twig, each time you've got a choice as shall I go down this branch or this branch, you make a choice, and then based on that choice, because you no longer see the other choice, that choice becomes your belief, and from that belief you then make a judgment as to what your reality is. Then you get to the next node in the thing and make another choice, have another belief and another judgment, until we're here believing that this is a reality and judging it to be so.
But that's exactly right. You're doing that in the right way, because you're not getting stuck in a belief. You accept that's a belief at this moment in time, but then you're open to other things coming in.
And that is something I haven't heard anyone say before, but I had a problem with belief when I was rational. When I didn't have a heart, I had degrees of probability and notions of possibility and likelihood and things like that, but I didn't have belief. As I got deeper into the meditation, I had more knowing, so I started with knowing, and now I've found a heart. I begin to feel maybe I have more belief, but I don't feel the need for it.
Exactly, because you know.
Yeah.
There's a question here in the chat room. Shall I put this to your deck?
Oh, I can read.
Right, okay.
I'll read it, shall I? Deck, in your experience and opinion, what information is coming through in sparks and large flashes of light, in addition to confirmation that you are connecting to other dimensional energy and or beings? Could you just put me a yes, Azra, if you're talking about the sprites that I've been channeling recently?
Yes, I wanted to talk about those. Yes, I was going to ask you about the sprites.
Well, I just called them sprites because that's what came to me when I saw them. I've seen them at various other times. I can't really say... right, I do know. If you want the story of how that came about, I've been writing about music and saying that I felt that Mozart, for me, was too obvious. It was almost as if I knew him and I knew his every trick and his every ploy that he uses in his music. And it was kind of... so it didn't excite me in the way other people excite me. And I just toyed with the idea of being an incarnation of Mozart. And I thought, well, I've got a previous incarnation from that I do know. Is there enough time for me to have died and come back? And I was just playing with that. And that took me back to thinking about the previous incarnation, which had come up of being tortured on the rack. And the pain of it had come up in a previous memory when I was dealing with my own back pain, and I remembered that. And at the time, this was during the era of Guy Fawkes. A whole bunch of them were arrested and tortured, and they blurted out names of people who were arrested and tortured, and they blurted out names of people.
And Dick, sorry, because we're on American radio show, nobody knows but us who Guy Fawkes was.
Oh, right. Guy Fawkes was a guy with a load of other people that plotted to blow up the Houses of Parliament, and unfortunately got caught. And the offshot was people under that kind of extreme pain say anything, so they would give names of anyone they could think of. My name in this one got called, and I was arrested and taken in. And when I remembered this, I was remembering the painful bit, and I was just saying my name. I just repeated it over and over again. So in the memory, I knew what my name was, and I also remembered where I lived. And I went on the net and found this guy on the net and found out where he lived, and it looked exactly the same as I remembered it. And that was for me, that was real confirmation that this was something real. Since then, I've forgotten the name and the location. But this time, when I remembered it, I remembered the point that we'll call him Thomas, just for the sake. I can't remember what his name was, but the point where he transcended. He was a God-fearing man, and he reached out to God, which means he was reaching out to higher dimensions, higher notions of love, with a heart completely open and desperate for help. And that openness and that striving, driven by that great pain, enabled him to transcend in the few moments before he died. And it was that transcendence, in this time when I went back into the memory, it was that transcendence I found. It was a very, very high love. I was experiencing this, and then the sprites came to me, and then I heard them, and then I remembered I'd heard them quite a lot before and not really realised it, and I'd seen them quite a lot before and not really realised it. And I started writing it, and within a week I was. They were saying it was too slow writing. I couldn't keep up with what was coming. I can't keep up when I'm speaking when they're throwing information at me, but it's a lot easier when I'm speaking now. So now I'm channeling sprites, which just see themselves as the information layer of the fabric of reality.
Right, wonderful. Yes, Azra was writing something else in the chat room. About her own experience. I've asked her if she'd like to call in. I don't know if she will or not. Otherwise, if you'd like to put in exactly what your experiences are, Azra, if you don't want to call in, we can have a look at that.
I will say while we're waiting for that, my partner's been seeing more sprite-like things. I've been seeing orbs. My understanding is that what I see of the sprites is about as fundamental as it can be, which is a spinning hypervortex. In my logical system, the final image is either a decahedron, if you do it like in solid form, or a spinning hypertoroid, which is a donut. Imagine a donut-shaped spinning with a spiral running down around the donut as well that's spinning. Anyway, that's the nature I see in the sprites, which is like a little spinning ball with various shapes in it.
That's interesting. I feel that they've some people have often mentioned that they have seen them in the Northern Lights.
I wouldn't be at all surprised, but they are infinitely dimensional. So I think I'm seeing them pretty much as simply as can be seen, but then other dimensions of them show up in digital photographs, and you get orbs in there. You can see coloured orbs, mists of light, bright flashes. Any number of phenomena are coming from these things. Some of them hang around in this plane, but a lot of them also pass through it. So when they pass through, you'll just see a flash as they enter this plane and then disappear. So there's lots of things flashing in and out. And if you happen to be tuned into that level of information, if the information in your mind matches what's around you and you're at quite a high level, I believe that's when you start seeing them.
I think that's a case with a lot of the orbs as well. Not all of them, but with a lot of them, they're actually interdimensional beings that can't form here, and so they appear as orbs on their way through. Or
that's just one dimension of seeing the thing. Simple sort of example. If you take an ordinary tin can and shine a light through it, so you've got a silhouette, you can hold it one way so the silhouette looks round, and hold it another way so that it looks like a rectangle. I hope you're following that.
Yes.
It's the same thing, and it looks like two different shapes. And we can go an awful lot more complex than that, but that's what happens when you lose dimensions. The complexity that's in a higher dimension isn't visible at the lower dimension. So, for instance, I can show you the decahedron as a fundamental particle also produces everything else: the macabre, the tree of life, the platonic solids, the Vesica Pisces. All of them have this at its core. the decahedron. So they're all an expression of the same shape, and they're just each a different facet of the same thing, and they all together tie together at that one single point, which is why it's so important, and that's why it's so beautiful.
And what other beings or interdimensional things have you seen, do you feel?
Right. When
For instance, if I could just start with, where do you feel that you came from?
Oh, righty-ho.
Yes, if we could go just a little bit in that direction, that might be an influence on what you see.
Sure. Before I go there, I'll just say in the near-death experience, and when I'd remembered it, but I also I had another near-death experience, or at least thought I was going to die, and I separated again, and I remembered separating, and both times I looked up and I saw this being that I now recognize as Horus standing above me. I didn't know it was Horus at the time. I had to scan around and find some images to work out who he was. Anyway, going back to where I came from, I believe I've been here for the long haul. I was in on the creation of this galaxy, and certainly the creation of this solar system, this planet, and I've been here since the beginning. And I got to that by... I was asleep one day and I woke up and there was a small grey alien standing next to me. And I am incredibly rational, so I always accept anything that can happen. Like even the incarnation experience can be just my mind producing an image to get the effect. And if it works, it works, and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm not attached to any of these being real. But I saw this grey alien and was so shocked, my mind changed frequency and he disappeared. And I was meditating later, and I realized that when I brought this to mind, I could feel a sense of connection. So I asked, are you real or are you a symbol for something else? And immediately I got zapped off when I'm standing in front of what I now know as the Council of Estrogoth, which is a Syrian council, and they're applauding my arrival. This is really bizarre, and I was thinking, this is quite imaginative of me. Where's this taking me? But I said, are you real or are you a symbol for something else? And all of a sudden I get taken off, and I'm the stellar consciousness of Syrah, which is the alpha star of the Pegasus constellation and the Andromeda constellation. Later on, I went back into the meditation and again went to Syrah and said, are you real or are you a symbol for something else? And I got taken to the galactic consciousness, galactic oversoul, who don't specifically have a name, so I called them Fred just for fun. And we won't go off into words. I'll just finish this path. From the galactic oversoul, once I tuned into them, and they can appear as bright sparks, 0 points of light, but they can also manifest throughout the whole universe. So I can be aware of their essence in this room now as just the continuity that's throughout this part of reality. From there, I went to the universal consciousness, and then the hyper-universal consciousness, and then I got taken out. So I saw, if you like, the living body that makes up a whole bunch of universes, and zoomed out and saw those as just atoms of a larger body that was a bubble, and zoomed out and saw the bubbles were just tiny points in this great mist, and zoomed out and realized that what I was seeing was the ground of our reality, that size was cyclic. So I don't know if you're following that. We're getting as big as this universe, and then bigger and bigger at an infinite rate, until we reach a point where what I'm looking at is the ground that this universe is built on. So if we carry on getting bigger, we find strings and quarks and atoms and molecules until we end up in a physical body. So the whole size thing is cyclic as well. I can show that mathematical infinity is cyclic. Everything is cyclic on the larger scale. And Yeah, so that's kind of mind blowing. Being the sprites have talked about going backwards and forwards in time at the same time, but everything is just this massive great cycle. Was I making sense then?
I'm sorry, Dick, I was just typing something in the chat room. You're making total sense to me, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
Do you have any questions, Jerry?
No, I think that this is all just, we're in total, Dex and complete enflowment here, you know, it's just, everything's just flowing from you, you know, it's brilliant. Yeah, we're just trying to different.
Yeah, Zara's trying to call in, but her computer keeps crashing, so we're trying to see if we can get her in ourselves. And it's interesting because I always say to people, question everything. I've had lots of visions and beings appear in front of me, and I never accept what I see. I always say, who are you? You know, what's going on? Where are you from? Where are you taking me? All the time.
Yeah.
Don't accept anything.
What is your purpose and what is your symbolism?
Yes.
Because lots of these things, demons and things like that, once you stop believing in them, they go away.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't take any notice of them, they do go away anyway. I'm not saying that's right in most cases. I've had enough experience to know that there are some other things going on from beings coming in from other dimensions that do harm people. But I'm saying that in my own experience, when things have happened to me, I've asked people to leave and they've left. They had no choice. But that may be because I do stand in my own power and I know where I came from. So.
But I know lots of people go, but when I say this, that there isn't anything more powerful in this universe than you.
Exactly.
You're the creative of it. There's no great demons that are going to be any stronger than you because you're the one that's making them.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that now because there are other instances. I mean, I've always been a psychic, Dick, and I spent many years teaching mediumship in the UK and all around Europe, and I have experienced a lot of things with other people that weren't of their own choosing. So I'm not going to go down that road, but those are the experiences I have. Yeah.
I'm guessing it depends at what level the choice is made. And
yes.
Ultimately, everything comes from the one, no matter how demonic it might seem.
Oh yes.
It's all at some point come from the one. And
I do feel that we came here with contracts as well for what experiences we were going to go through.
When I look back and see the degree of synchronicity throughout my life, the number of coincidences that had to happen for any particular thing to happen, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And it's only, yes, that was pretty well designed.
Exactly. Yes.
Before it gets too near the end of the show, would you like a bit of music?
Yes, I was just thinking that we must not miss the harp.
Okay, right.
Let's go for that.
Here we go. It's a lovely thing. I still love the sound of it every time I play.
Oh, how wonderful.
I only took it up about 35 years ago. Plenty. I'm hoping the sound will come. We tried earlier, didn't we? Yes.
Yes, it
right.
sounded pretty good the last time.
I shall get into this.
Go for it.
Right. Let's do some resetting down here. Okay. Get the pedals in the right place.
Oh, there's pedals.
And it's a shame really because the no recording ever sounds like a real harp, and no one but me knows what it really sounds like because I have the resonance running through my body as well. When it gets going, this thing really throbs. It's got a beautiful resonance. Anyway, here we go.
Great.
Oh, shoot, sorry. Absolutely brilliant. Really loved that.
Was I on mute?
No. You were brilliant.
Okay, so we have Azra with us now, Dec.
Oh, hi, Azra. How are you?
Maybe she's forgotten to unmute.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, here she is. Yeah, we had you unmuted. Now you're good to go.
I haven't done
Welcome.
this in like forever. Thank you so very much for bringing me in.
For the benefit of everyone else, I met the lovely Azra at Avebury on one lovely midsummer's sunrise.
What a
Yeah.
lovely place to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, that was 2010, and I moved over here in 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I'm actually moving to Wales.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
We're thinking of it.
Yes, I've been meaning to chat with you about that privately, which we'll do later. Doc, that was absolutely fabulous. I love your playing and also your the depth and breadth of your knowledge and wisdom is never ceases to blow me away. I was asking about the light earlier, but I guess another thing that sort of, and I missed some of it because of the my own personal technical difficulties, but sort of similar but different as timelines and dimensions are merging and we're seeing, the veils between worlds are thinning. I personally have had a lot of things about dragons coming in. And funny that I'm moving to Wales, but
the land of the red dragon. Yes.
Exactly. And in fact, I when I woke up, the other morning when I was coming out of a very deep dream state, I couldn't remember the details of my dream, which I often do, but what was in my head when I awoke was cats are dragons.
Mm.
And when I think about it logically, I said, actually that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. Do you have any thoughts on that, or with the sprites?
I could certainly live with that, with cats being dragons. That's a lovely idea. The dragons I know, and exactly the same thing happened to me, was quite a lot of dragon experience before I came to Wales, but they've been suspicious by their absence so far. But the dragons I see are not reptiles or lizards or anything like that. They're the full scale flying dragon, immensely big, beautifully coloured, and incredibly wise. These are gentle giants. These ones. They're like the whales of the dragon kingdom, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yes, they fly, but not because they're flying in our sky, but because they're flying in a different dimension to ours, and you have to slip sideways in dimensions to be able to see them.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, because actually one of my favorite dragon experiences was meeting. It was like a very large purple, almost like dragon that was, he was big and plump and he was pure love, and that was, Which
brings us to the point where I think we all should disappear into pure love, because it's about to close. So I'd like to say I love everyone there.
Yeah, well, listen, we can go on over for a few minutes. So the people
great.
listening from the main Blog Talk page, they will lose what we're talking about here, but they will be able to get it on the recording. So we'll just say cheerio to anyone that's on that Blog Talk page. Sorry to lose you now, but you will be able to catch what we talk about here on the recording when you go back, and it'll be available about 15 minutes after the show finishes. So and meanwhile...
I might even play out with another little song as well, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely, because that'll all come onto the recording. So we'll just say goodnight to the lovely people listening on the chat room and online. And anyone still on the board, we've got one person on the board listening. You can keep listening, and we can keep chatting away. So cheerio to Blog Talk, and on we go. Carry on. Right, we can carry on, folks.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
Carry on the dragon discussion. That was lovely.
Yeah, the purple dragon. Yeah, he was he was incredibly wise and warm and loving and cuddly, and also too, it brings to mind, I missed part of what you were speaking about earlier about revisionist history and how everything is sort of reverted, in my opinion, for the purpose of us not knowing who we truly are and control and all that stuff, and the whole thing about dragons being, getting a really bad rap, and always being slayed, and you have to, slay the dragon, and
Yes. There's a local tale in here at Newcastle Emlyn, just down the road, is where the last dragon in Wales was slayed, apparently.
Oh, really?
But I'm not sure these are the dragons that you and I know. I think there are different dragon families, and there's the Dracos and the reptilians and the lizards, and I think it's a very varied community. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, interestingly, the area where I'm moving to, the Radnor Forest, the legend there is that it's where the last dragon in Wales sleeps.
Right.
And it's actually sort of guarded or held by 4 churches that are dedicated to St. Michael. And it's very interesting.
You got to be the one to wake the dragon. We need them.
Yeah.
We need them. When I really got through, I saw them everywhere, and I said, "There can't be that many of you." And they said, "No, this is all time. We exist out of your time." And so when I saw them, I saw all the dragons that had ever been in the area at that time, which was quite fun, and gave me a good chance to see the variety. It was very colourful.
Yeah, I guess that's fantastic. Yeah, we'll have to discuss the whole dragon thing, later, on a personal basis, if you know what I mean, as part of the mission, the new mission.
So there's also, of course, all the other metaphysical dragons, like the Milky Way seen on is a dragon eating its tail, the Ouroboros, which is
right.
they're mirrored in us as the Ouroboros of the energetic cycle that we have in us.
Yes. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking that we're having such a fantastic discussion. I would like to ask Dec if maybe you'd come back on sometime in the near future, because I think that you've tons to share. And
never ending. We haven't
right.
even touched the scientific side.
Well, exactly.
So this is another great misdeception. People looking at DNA when there's another system of control that's 100 million times more complex, and no one ever looks at it. It's incredible.
Okay, well, we want to hear about that. That's for sure.
Or the exact nature of how light creates matter.
Right.
Hidden from the public. And other such joys.
I must say, Azra, you have a wonderful, beautiful soul voice.
She does, doesn't she?
Oh, thank you so very much. I'm really honored for you to say that. Thank you.
Well, we're honored for you to be here. We just open up our radio show for everybody to have a voice. Yeah. That's how we started.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, welcome any time, and do come on and chat with Dec again when we work out a date that we can have him back on, and join us again for sure. And obviously you and he are going to continue your conversation about the dragons, and it's very interesting for me to hear that, because all anybody hears is about slaying dragons, and obviously there's more to dragons than meets the eye. So,
and I'll do what I can to get my partner to say a word or two sometime.
That would be wonderful.
All the merrier.
That would be fabulous to hear, Princess.
We could also go down a little road of the Prince of Wales and the Dragons. We could bring that in somewhere. That would be interesting.
Yes, indeed. Yes, I can see lots more very, very interesting conversation going on here. So, let's look out for that and work something out, because we're always here, and sounds like Dec's got tons more to share, and this has been fantastic. But I know it's getting late there. It must be midnight for you. So.
Oh yes.
Oh yes, it is.
All right then.
I would like to play out with just a little number. I
love that. Please do. Yes, do. And if you had anything else just to finish, I didn't want to cut you guys off, but I just wanted to put that out really.
I think we're cool. Otherwise, we could go on all night really. It's been lovely being on the show. Absolutely fantastic. Lovely talking to Azra again. And I love you so much. And what I want to play out with is a little lullaby. It's dedicated to all the babies out there and all the babies in you, because they never go. The baby's always there. The baby you were, it never goes anywhere. It's you. It's an integral part of you, and it's nice to go back sometimes and love the baby in you, because that resonates through your life track and brings more love to you, to be the wise friend to it. I'm just getting myself set up for the
Wonderful. Dick, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everyone listening. We hope you catch this last bit of archives. Don't forget to look on to Just Us Radio Network. You can find it if you ask Google. You'll find lots of different links to our YouTube, to our iTunes podcasts, and to our website for everything we have going on here. So thank you very much. The next show we have coming up is... where are we? Oh, yes, the next show coming up will be Cynthia again with you, Jerry.
On Saturday. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I'm going to be away for a week. I'm on vacation. And when we come back, we'll have One Point of View again with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and then Nick Redford is coming on, another lovely guy from England who now lives in Dallas.
Okay, lots of good information coming up forth, as always. Great conversation. All right, hit it, Jack. We're looking for it.
Okay, I'll just give you the lyrics first. I'm not going to attempt to sing it, but it's, I love you, sweet baby. You enchanted me so. You filled me with joy from my head to my toe. Let go all your cares. Be happy and free. Dream well, my sweet baby, for I love you so.
Oh, thank you.